Howdy folks, Meandering Mike, the Man Cave of Madness. Here we're looking at a stack of 6 books that are related to Battle of Tannenberg, early part of the East Front War, World War I, Germany and Russia. So we're going to, in the context of the Tannenberg game that we finished, we're going to look at some of these here, look at some maps and some of the information that they present. I'm going to set this over here so we can see the map. We will refer to the game map versus some of the things in the books. This is a very interesting atlas. This has been around for a long time. It's in its 3rd edition now. Wide variety of situational maps here. Like you can, here's one for the Western Front there in June of 1918, but we're looking at 1914, August and September. I've got a couple of maps marked. This book has lots of good economic, political, situational maps. The battle maps aren't necessarily the great. Now here is the Eastern Front showing like where Russia was attacking Austria-Hungary into Galicia, trying to put some pressure there. How they attacked into East Prussia to try to put pressure on the Germans so that they would relieve pressure against the French. So the early battles here. Now this marks the Battle of Gombinin. There was also Staloponen. The early battles between the Russian First Army, Rennenkampf, and the 8th Army, German Army, at the time was led by Prittwitz. Those happened in the very early part of mid to August, up to August 20th. Staloponen happened before, I think it was 17th or 18th. And Prittwitz got relieved by von Moltke, and he put Hindenburg and Ludendorff in its place. So the push here by the 2nd Army, now this is very misleading. This black area says this is the area occupied by Russian 1st and 2nd Armies. No, this the one that shows Tannenberg, Allenstein's up here. It's actually, they marched on Ortelsburg. I don't think they actually ever, well, these are the Germans counterattacking afterwards, but I don't think the Russians ever actually fully occupied Ortelsburg, and they never made it all the way to Allenstein, so they didn't quite penetrate quite this deep, but almost. We'll show another map in another book. Then here's the aftermath of later counterattacking against Rennenkampf. Once they had pretty much slaughtered most of Samsonov's 2nd Army, they transferred stuff up and started pushing back up here. So obviously they did a much better job than I did in my game, where the Russian advance by the 1st Army never really got pushed back. There was some German counterattacking for casualties, but the Germans had to fall back here, and they weren't quite as successful down here. They never destroyed the whole 2nd Army, so we're not able to pull back and reassign a vast majority of the forces. But yeah, these particular battle maps aren't as useful as they could be. But overall, again, this is an excellent resource. Many across all fronts, naval stuff, air stuff, land stuff, economic, political, just really great resource. But then you want to follow it up, with more modern research and stuff. Now this, what is it? Out. Osprey Central History Series. I believe there's 4 in the First World War series. I believe there's the Eastern Front one. I believe there's 2 on the Western Front, split up by date. And then there's one on the Mediterranean Front, which they're including all the Balkans and the Middle East. They're calling it the Mediterranean Front. And I guess including, the Italian campaigns. So this one here has some map stuff also, but let's see. Got some bookmarks in here. I wanted to show there's some nice pictures. Here is, I can zoom in a little more there. Hindenburg and Ludendorff. And they talk about They're replacing Privets and his general staff. Let's see, did they have a picture of, in this one? No, I don't think they had a picture of Samsonov and Rennenkampf in this one. Here's the map I wanted to show on this one. This one's a little problematic in that they're showing, so there was Stolopona, that was the 17th. And then Gumbinin on the 20th. Rennenkampf then sort of hemmed and hawed and sort of stayed put and consolidated. The Germans were able to pull some troops down, concentrate. So the 26th through the 31st is basically fighting again. Here's Tannenberg over there that the battle's named after, but it wasn't fought there. Let's see, they don't even show Allenstein on this map, which is bizarre. So the level it's at, the Ortelsburg and Allenstein, the important places, more so than Tannenberg, which is just a name. They don't show those, which would be nice. This is wrong. Samsonov's whole Second Army did not come from this direction. Well, there was some cavalry over here, and there's, I think, one corps. The bulk of it came up this way into here. And besides these lakes, there's all sorts of German forts through here. There is a little tiny gap. There's another map we'll see in the actual book specifically on the Battle of Tannenberg. But so again, every map can have a different picture of exactly when and how it is interpreted. So you've got to take these all with a grain of salt, and you got to dig in and do further research. But overall, if you want to learn about the whole Eastern Front, First World War, this would be a good overall view. Just any particular information on, a map or a particular battle, you might need to reinforce that information. So here is their one on Tannenberg. This is, again, another Osprey title, but it's part of their campaign series. So Tannenberg, 1914, Destruction of the Russian Second Army is its subtitle. Now, let's see here. Did this one have picture of Rennenkampf and Samsonov? No, this is maps. So I wanted to show here. This is a little better. So if we can see here, this is just a cavalry division. So in the Tannenberg game, that's a one-strength cavalry division. This corps here, there was one unit that I was talking about. Well, should it really go this way? This does not show the fact that there's, heavy woods and swamp all over here. This is tough going. This is the route of easy march this way. So, there's Tannenberg, there's Allenstein. Some Russian cavalry won the flank, but here's the bulk. So as that other map showed everything coming this way, no. Most of the stuff was coming up this way, and just little tiny forces might have been poking their nose that way. And I made the determination in my game that this guy made more sense if they're following the rules as written for the steamroller rule, that he should really go this way, that he could make the farthest advance towards this point by actually coming this way, because, again, avoiding the swamp and the woods, you can make better progress this way. There's like a 1 hex gap between forts here. There's the Battle of Stolopona and Gumbinin, and again the Rennenkampf and the First Russian Army moved up. The Germans fell back. The Russians did not pursue here. Now, one of the things, I'll save that for the next book, because they're talking about it there a little bit. The issues between Rennenkampf and Samsonov, they were feuding dudes. Okay, so this is here. There's Ortelsburg over here. And this does not even show. There's Tannenberg. Yeah, there's Allenstein up there. Okay, so Tannenberg is like over this way. See, they never got up to Allenstein. Here's this penetration, but they were marching on Orlsburg, but I don't think they ever took it. And so they fell back. The Germans pushed forward. They came around and they surrounded this advanced units and pretty much destroyed them. And then once that was all done, then they were able to go back and drive against the First Army. Now, there's a series of books by Prit Butar. This is just on 1914 on the Eastern Front. This author's written on World War II and World War I, but so quite extensively written on the Eastern Front. Like there's 1914, 1915, and then I think 1916 through 17 is the one. So I think it's a trilogy. So let's see here. This is an example. This is not good for maps. This is good for narrative, the overall history, but black and white map, no position of troops. There's the battle, quote unquote, the battle. Here's Allenstein. There's Orlsburg. Again, Tannenberg's not even on this map. Again, it's over here somewhere, I believe. So that's the level of maps in this book. There's a few of them, but they're all black and white. Some of them do have movement. So like this is later, August 22, 24. Cleaning up, mopping up various units. But again, more interesting in here is the narrative and sort of the story of who doing what. So there's good old Rennenkampf of the First Army, and they talk about, let's see, yeah, here's Samsonov. They talk about, for example, that the Germans intercepted some communiques about the Russian marching plans and how the Russians were moving up their timetables for some of their actual marching positions or something, and the fact that Rennenkampf was not going to be coming to the aid of the Second Army. Now, I don't think he could have got there in time. Period. I mean, doing the math, I mentioned this on my after action review, and the fact that I said, oh, there's going to be a rail connection there. There's actually there's a spot right there that's single track only, so it does not actually connect double track. Now maybe way up north and way around, but on the bigger map where you can see here, that stuff from Kovno does not connect to Grodno right through there on all double track. So the Russians didn't have much. Now, this system here, I'm suppose that, if Rennenkampf really needs some rail, he could have got some capacity and moved some, but he couldn't have moved more than a division or two at most. So would have that made a difference? I don't know. But anyway, the story in here is that the Germans didn't believe that the Russians were doing this. They didn't believe, is Rennenkampf really not going to come to the aid? Is Samsonov really this dumb the way he's charging forward without protecting his flanks? And there was a German officer who, so Rennenkampf and Samsonov's, their bad blood goes back to the Russo-Japanese War. And this German officer I can't remember, he was either like there present as an observer somehow, or he had firsthand knowledge somehow that these guys really did not like each other. And he was telling the German, no, you should believe this. This is going to happen. And so they did. They actually decided to do it. And this is why because he set this big trap and were able to just crush the Second Army, cutting it off and knowing that they weren't getting help from the outside. So if you want a lot of detail, this is the way to go, and you could just keep going and learning tons on the Eastern Front in World War I. So the last two books I have here, Meandering Mike, we're 15 minutes in, or almost done. These are about the armies of our foes here. These are more Osprey titles. This is in Osprey's Men-at-Arms series. There's a lot of glare right there. See if I can... I got a ring light, and that's... if I can do that. So these cover the years 1914 to 1918. You can tell this is the latest look and feel of this series. This is an old. It even dates but it was in a previous series, so you can see in the evolution of the graphic design of the covers of these. But we can take a look at some of the goodies in here. Let's see. What was... oh, this has a nice chronology in this one that talks through what happened in the declaration of war and who started maneuvering when. So on this Eastern Front, Russian, when they attacked Austria-Hungary, when they moved in. And so they don't mention by name here, like Gumbunin and Staloponin. But they do mention Tannenberg, etc. So there's a nice thing there. And then there is in the center a bunch of nice infantry uniform photos. So you can see particular generals in 1914. Now these are all mixed by year for some reason. There's staff officers. Here shows guards units. 1914. Regular infantry, lieutenant colonel. Shows just the grunts. Line cavalry. Nothing from 1914 there. Here's warrant officer of the Cossacks, the Don Cossacks. Special troops. A pilot officer of the aviation service. Turkmen regiments. I don't know how many of those were on this particular front. But there's... so if you're into miniature painting or you just like to know about the troops, what kind of equipment they had, what kind of uniforms they had, and a little bit about their organization, their order of battle, there's a mix of that stuff in here. This German one here did not have the same kind of chronology that the other one did. But the... where was it here? The pictures, the uniform, the paintings were chronological order. So all this is 1914 here. Brandenburg Hussars... Grenadier, 1st Prussian Guard, a 2nd Lieutenant, Prussian Foot Guards, a Trooper, 2nd Prussian Guard Machine Gunner Detachment. And so then it goes on from there, more 1914, then it starts 1915 here. So here's some more 1914 guys. Trooper, Coriasso Regiment, Westphalian Regiment, Magdeburg Dragoon Regiment. So... and again, some talk about, very special machine gun units, artillery, mountain artillery, foot artillery, some mortar battle stuff, all that kind of stuff here. So that is my selection of Tannenberg East Front, early East Front related stuff. You got the particular armies, you got good narrative history, light on the details on the maps. This one has some more maps that I didn't look at. They have some like that sort of fake 3D half overhead, what they call 2.5D viewpoint in some video games. Let's see, like this. And these are kind of zoomed in because each one of these grid squares is 2 kilometers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I believe the 20 kilometers is the hex size in the Der Weltkrieg system. So that's not even half a hex. This is, half a hex. That's like 2/3 of a hex long, half a hex wide here. So this is stuff going on within a battle when you're fighting like, you know, one stack against one stack. They have some maps like that, which, you know, from an operational perspective, you know, this is useful. From a tactical game, the other one is, and sort of like something a little in between, a little more zoomed in of this level, but not quite the level of the other one. So like here, this is 10 kilometers, you know. So, and we also, this Essential Histories, this is another one that's, you know, a good, much lighter and easier read. This is the whole Eastern Front. So this would be a great place to start, I think, if you're interested in World War I East Front. This is if you're going into big depth. This is if you just like knowing about equipment and, you know, uniforms and things like that. If you're a miniature painter, these are awesome. If you're just a war gamer, you know, you'd like a hex and counter war gamer, you'd more. And this is probably the one that you would want the most if, as a hex and counter war gamer, trying to understand this battle. This is the one that you'd read, and this is just a good overall resource. But again, you can't trust all the details of maps of this scale and that, and you use them to follow up with further research. So that is it for my book list mini review, showing you some resources that could be helpful to you in your studies, in your enjoyment of games. Now, I mentioned in a previous video, I have one more World War I game to do for this year. That'll probably be it for this year. Lettel Vorbeck. It's not the next one because poll-wise, the Santiago campaign got voted on. That's what I do. But I'll have to decide. It'd be nice to have a little break between World War I games. So I might save it for the last one or the next to the last one. But we'll have more books there because I've got books on the East Africa campaign and Africa in general in World War I and all that stuff. So, Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness, stacks of books, relatively small stacks of books compared to the total that I have, but hopefully you all enjoyed that. Take care and ciao.